Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
So welcome back, everyone. Well, it's a great honor and a pleasure this morning to welcome Vimalasara to our Sangha. Vimalasara is Dr. Valerie Mason-Johnson, is a senior teacher in the Triratna Buddhist Community. They are the award-winning author of 9 books, including I'm Still Your Negro and Homage to James Baldwin, published in 2020, and recently edited the anthology Afrikan Wisdom, New Voices Talk Black Liberation, Buddhism, and Beyond, to be published this month. They are also the author of Detox Your Heart, Meditations for Healing Emotional Trauma, and the award-winning book, 8-Step Recovery, Using the Buddhist Teachings to Overcome Addiction, with 8-step meetings on several continents. Named as one of the leading African descent voices in the field of mindfulness approaches to addiction, they co-founded the accredited program Mindfulness-Based Addiction Recovery, MBAR. They work as a Dharma teacher, public speaker, professional trainer, and mindfulness teacher. Their website is www.valeriemason-johnson.com. So welcome, Vimalasara.
Hi, thank you. That was, I'm John. I don't have a son. I'm Valerie Mason-John. And how I wanted to start today, actually, because whenever you're on Zoom, it's, you have so many people, and, if I get all of you to introduce yourself or say something, then the whole session will be over. And also, when I'm invited to give a talk to a community that I'm not familiar with, I don't know, it's what I'd quite like to do is to invite you to click onto this link, and I've put it in the chat. So if you click onto this link, there's a question, and the question is, take a risk. What would you like to ask me? So I thought that's a great way we could start, rather than me actually just kind of giving the talk. What would you like to hear? What would you like to ask me? And take a risk. I'm open for anything to be asked. So if you see the link is in the chat. And just to know that it's anonymous. So I have no idea who's put the question there. So just, it's anonymous. So I just really want to encourage you to write something in. And as I say, I have no idea, nobody will know who's asked the question. It might be a question I might say, would the person who asked me that question like to speak? And of course you don't have to. But anyway, let's see, for some of you, to take a risk. Ask me a question. Any question. It's all Dharma. There's no thing there's Dharma and not Dharma. It's all Dharma. Oh, I suppose if you do write, then I do hear, to see. Yeah. Anybody else like to take part? Only 3 people at the moment. I know how many people do respond to it because it tells me. So is there anybody else who would like to take a risk? What would you like to ask? Yeah, there's some That was so interesting, actually, for a moment. How to Not Fear Death, and then the cessation of clinging was right over it. That was, yeah. Okay, anybody else who wants to submit? Just give it another few seconds. 9 people have contributed. I think I could say what's the most memorable thing about James Baldwin. I think, James is an icon for so many people, for gay people, for black people, for political activists. And I think for me, his work, when I think of James Baldwin, I think of the work that he left for us, for all of us. I see that all of us here are future ancestors. We talk about ancestors and the ancestors who have passed over to the other side, and to remember that we are future ancestors. Every one of us here at some point will become an ancestor. And in a way, the most memorable thing for me about James Baldwin is that he left a body of work that still has an impact on many people's lives. Yeah. All right. Let's. How is your heart today? How is my heart today? It's. I can remember being in conversation with Lady Phil Opoku, who is a leading African descent queer woman who does a lot of human rights stuff, that's based in the UK, and it was that thing of starting that dialogue with, how is your heart today? My heart, it's like a concertina that I noticed in my meditation, that there was constriction and openness, and it was wonderful because I could just see, like, every time my mind got busy and started to constrict, it was like, just come back to the breath, to the body. Every time the mind, heart got full and busy, I could experience this constriction. And there was just a joy in coming back to the body, coming back to the breath, and allowing the heart to open up. The biggest challenges, I think the biggest challenges is the nature of the mind. That's my biggest challenge, and that's a real privilege to be able to say that, to actually say that, my biggest challenge is the nature of the mind. And so as I say that, it reminds me of just how important it is for me to take advantage of that and to practice, because for some people it's, forget that the biggest challenge will be, having food to put in their belly, or the biggest challenge might be how to dodge a landmine, people who live in a war zone, or, for, how to deal with homophobia, or how to deal with the racism or genderism. So I'd say, definitely the biggest challenge for me is the mind. And in one of my books, I think most probably 8-Step Recovery, I talk about my biggest addiction being my stinking thinking. Yeah, just how my thinking can just tie me up into knots. I was just laughing when I was walking back from the ocean. I had a chuckle within myself because I'm having to go and visit my partner, who's working in a different province from me, and there's no ocean. So it means I'm not going to be able to swim in the ocean for like 4 days. And the reason why I chuckled was because I can remember when I used to go to Michigan Women's Music Festival, and one year I couldn't go, and I didn't want it to happen, and I could really feel I didn't want it to happen, and it was almost like, oh, so I don't want there to be sunshine so that people could swim. And I just laughed, the nature of the mind. It's like, so I can't do it, so I don't want it, I could see, I heard that thought. That's what the chuckle was. I heard that thought, oh, I hope it's not sunny so that I don't miss the swimming, and just had to laugh at myself, and it's great when we can get to the point of laughing at the nature of our mind, because when we think of mindfulness and the mindfulness of breathing, I really tend to think of it as the mind full of breathing. And when the mind is full of breathing, it means that whatever arises in the mind, we can still breathe. We don't have to hold the breath and push it down, or hold the breath and push it away. And it may be that, negative thoughts might arise. Well, beneficial thoughts might arise, unbeneficial thoughts arise. And it's just noticing the whole landscape of the mind. Noticing the whole landscape of the mind. And when we can notice the whole landscape of the mind, what can happen is, it's like, oh, are certain thoughts beneficial, or are certain thoughts unbeneficial? And we try and cultivate the thoughts which are more beneficial to us. But often we identify with the thoughts which aren't so beneficial, which can create all the papancha, the proliferation of thought. Yeah. So the one, looking at this, I tend to, as you can just know, that I'm answering the easier ones. So, because I do want to get to this, how to not fear death, because death is inevitable. It's the one thing we can guarantee in life, isn't it? Death. But let's we'll come back to that. And what is the 8-step approach? I can still see this. Let me just kind of get out of this and stop sharing the screen. Maybe what I will do is might bring up a short video. Yeah, let's do this. So I'm going to share a video on 8-step recovery. And just to let you know, I'm actually co-leading. We'll put the a link in a bit later, but I'm co-leading a retreat with Kevin Griffin, which I think many of you will know, because Kevin is in I think Berkeley or one of those places. So we're leading a day long on Saturday, August the 7th, Recovery as a Path to Insight. So we both like talking about insight. So let me just make sure that I've done this properly so you have the best possible experience. Let's do this.
I love the fact that the 8-step recovery program is no conflict with my 12-step program. What it does, it just enhances my step 11, and it just enhances my spirituality. And the 12-step program, all it does is it tells you to find a spiritual practice. And this is perfect because it has prayer, it has meditation, it has literature, and it has support from the community. And that for me is really important. I've made so many great friends at the 8-step recovery program, and I'll forever be grateful for the relationships and the wisdom that I've gained from the 8-step recovery program.
8-step recovery has totally impacted my life, 360 degrees. So the main thing that I get from the 8-step, well, it can't be one main thing, there's thousands of things. One of the main things is having a really nice connection with Sangha, the group, the community here, because there's over the years. I've been coming here for roughly 4, almost 5 years, I think. And this was my path of recovery this time. I've been in other programs of recovery, and I have a background in addictions as an addictions counselor. But this program, recovery, is the one that I found has helped me face most of my philosophical questions about life.
The 8-step recovery impacted my life in a really gentle way, something I really needed in my life at the time when I first started coming here. It was really welcoming here. I really feel comfortable here, and I needed a smaller space to come to discover a little more about myself with where I was really going in my life. I was experiencing a lot of tragedy in my life, losses in my life, and I needed a safe place to be, and I found it in the 8-step recovery program.
I first came to 8-step recovery through some friends that were in 12-step programs, and it has really fulfilled the 11th step, which is taking care of my spiritual practice, and it opened up a whole world of opportunity for me. Through the meditation practice and the camaraderie of the fellowship here at the 8-step recovery. It's been, I'd have to say, life-changing. One of the benefits is brought meditation into my life, and that has become a cornerstone for my daily practice, what my day looks like.
Particularly what I find really, really amazing about the 8-step program is having ethical principles, having the 5 ethical principles that are basic principles that we live by. They're really helpful guidelines for my life.
8-step recovery has impacted my recovery program by bringing a breath of fresh air and a fresh approach to my ongoing recovery. And I particularly like going for refuge to the Sangha, the teachings, and the wisdom of the Buddha as a way to articulate having a higher power and finding a source of strength that was greater than my own. That being able to articulate it, a source of strength that is not a person or a being, was critically important for me, and that was one of the things. And I think the other most important thing was discussing and exploring the Four Noble Truths and accepting that life does have suffering in it. And when I accepted that that's the nature of life, then I didn't find that there was any more need to escape from life through addiction.
Yeah, and I've learned to accept that this human life does bring suffering, and I've learned to accept that I bring extra suffering into my life, and that can stop.
My experience since I've been a part of the 8-step recovery program has been in the prevention of relapse for myself. Paying attention to the steps on a regular basis in conjunction with my meditation has really I've found very helpful in helping me to re-engage in my community and re-engage in being very much present in my own life. At this time, I'm also had the privilege to be part of the 8-step recovery group in the meetings and have had the opportunity to help facilitate, which I have found to help me a great deal in becoming very much aware on the impact that I personally can have on the everyday lives of others.
8-step recovery is a wonderful program. It's profound, it's powerful, it's intuitive, it's great. It's changed my life. I'm not the same person that I used to be. And I also read the 8-step recovery book as well as come to the sessions, and those two together is a very powerful mixture. And just to have the author, come in and facilitate has been just so profound for me, and just the way I interact with others and the way I deal with the community, and just my meditation has gone such a vast improvements. And my spirituality in general has really been improved. I'm really grateful for the 8-step meditation recovery program. It's really a blessing.
So the 8-step recovery is an alternative program to the 12-step program, or it can be complementary. I always say that it's your 11th step. So in your 11th step, you've got 8 more steps to explore. And it's another way to approach your recovery, which comes from the Buddhist teachings. Yeah. So, the first one is, accepting that this human life will bring suffering. Seeing how we create extra suffering in our lives. So the third step is recognizing impermanence, showing us that our suffering can end. Fourth step is being willing to step onto the path of recovery and discover freedom. 5 is transforming our speech, actions, and livelihood. 6 is placing positive values at the center of our lives. Step 7, making every effort to stay on the path of recovery. And step 8, helping others to share the benefits I have gained. Okay, let's move on to, there was a question on how not to worry. I just wondered if the person who asked that question, if you'd like to have a dialogue with me, an inquiry with me. You don't have to, it's an opportunity. So the person who asked that question, how not to worry, raise your hand if you'd like to have a dialogue. And one of the reasons why I always invite this is because it's when we discover, when we discover for ourselves the answers, it sticks. You know, for me to tell you how not to worry, it's another thing. It's almost like sometimes you think about how many books have you read to stop doing something and you're still doing something, you know? And so, or how many courses have you been on and you're still doing the same thing? And I just really find that the rewiring, we call it neuroplasticity these days, that has to, it comes from us from doing the work. So it's just an invitation, how not to worry. Or if there's anybody, maybe I should open it up. If there's anybody who is assailed by worry and anxiety, would you like to have a dialogue with me? So open it up. Anybody who finds themselves assailed by worry and anxiety, because this is
okay.
Oh, Reuven.
Yeah, I just want to say I asked both those questions, how not to worry and how not to fear death, and I thought they didn't go through. I was having sort of problems in sending them, but somehow both those questions are asked, so I'd love to talk with you, Vimalasara.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Reuven. Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Perfectly correctly, yeah.
Okay. Is I suppose first, and I'll ask you questions. You don't want to answer, that's fine. I might sometimes interrupt you and say, let's pause. But the first question is worry something that is worry something that you experience? I do,
yeah. I think my life, the basics of my life are good, and yet I spend, more time than I'd like to in my head worrying about things.
Sure.
Often future things.
So actually maybe the question I have for you is where did you get this job to worry? When was the first time you ever found yourself worrying? How did you get this job?
That's a good question. I think as a kid, I think my mother worried a lot about many things. And maybe that's where I got it from. Also, I'm Jewish, grew up in Israel with lots of, the Holocaust in the background.
So what I'm hearing is there's definitely a legacy burden. There's that intergenerational trauma, worry. Mm-hmm. But let's look at that because, we can see that there's definitely some intergenerational trauma. There's a burden that your mother has passed on to you. But what's the function of worry for you? What does worry do for you?
I think it just gets in the way of, enjoying the present, it just seems to be a hassle. I don't think it serves me well. And yet those thoughts come up often enough.
What are you turning away from? Because, when we move into worry, we are turning away from something, can't we?
I'm not sure. Because I'm not sure what I'm turning away from.
Well, let me ask you this question again. When was the first time that you really experienced yourself worrying? I know that you say that your mother worried a lot. And when do you first remember beginning to worry?
Maybe my biggest worries, and I'm not sure they're the first, were about being gay. Maybe at the age of 14, I started thinking about that, and I suffered with that for many, many years. Just the fear that I am different from everyone else, from what I'm expected to be.
Where did that story come from? The fear of you being really different. What was the messages you got in your childhood conditioning?
Well, that I like men or boys, and I didn't know anyone else like that, and that was, looked down upon and made fun of, and I felt it was unacceptable. I was horrified that indeed was my true nature, which obviously now it is, and now I embrace it very happily. But let's say between 14 and 24, it was very disturbing to me. It was definitely the overarching fear that I lived with then. That it would be found out, that I would find that I myself would accept that.
And did you ever speak to your parents during that time?
No, not during that time. And I spoke with go ahead.
No, go on. You spoke with?
Oh, no, I spoke with my father about it, but that was after I came out and was very comfortable with that situation. Then I spoke with him. My mother was dead by then. I actually came out at 32, half a year after my mother died.
It's interesting that you came out, half a year after your mother died. What do you think your mother would have said if she had known?
I think probably ultimately she would have accepted it, but I had this thing in my mind that she said at some point when I was about 18, she said, "Are you some kind of homosexual or something?" With a really very strong down, putting me down, scaring me.
Hold on. So she asked you, "Are you some kind of homosexual?" And you made it mean she was downscaling you.
That's what it sounded like from her tone. I'm not giving you the whole story of when that happened. That will not take too much time. I don't think it's significant.
What is significant, though, is what you made it mean. Yeah. That actually when your mother said, "Are you some kind of homosexual?" you made it mean. Yeah.
I think she said it with anger, not with curiosity.
Even though she said it with anger, you made it mean something.
I made it mean that would be a terrible thing to be, and I thought indeed I was that. I thought it's terrible in her eyes.
Yeah, you thought it was terrible. And what if I said to you, because it's really interesting, because another possibility could be from where I'm standing is, I always say, if your mother named it, she was ready to know. So, it may have been just her just not knowing how to deal with it. It just came out, but she was actually ready to know because she named it. But you made it mean, oh my God, this is terrible. This is the worry. So coming back to what is the worry, the anxiety, is what we make it mean. Can you see that?
I do now, but at the time when I was 18, I didn't for a long, long time.
You didn't. But if you'd come to see me at 18, maybe you would have realized that. I think
I wish I would have.
What we're looking at is how worry grows. Okay? Yeah, what we're looking at. So in a way, your question is, how does one stop to worry? And for you, is to be really aware of when you're making something mean something. Okay? Because that's the worry. That's the papancha. Something happens, we make it mean something. We see somebody's face, we make it mean something. And then it gets out of control and we get caught in the story. Can you see that?
How about the worry of death? Which is probably nowadays, now that I've gotten very embracing of my gayness, now death is the biggest worry probably that I face often enough.
Sure. And if it wasn't death, what else do you worry about?
Oh, someone else dying, whatever, missing an airplane. I can come up with things at the drop of a hat.
Of course. So again, when you go into this, what's going on in the body?
Often I feel anxiety even around my heart or around my stomach. I feel discomfort, I feel tension.
And do you have any idea when the first time you ever experienced anxiety in the heart, in the belly, when you really was aware of anxiety in the body?
Very late in life with the full awareness. Maybe therapists asking me, where do you feel that in your body? And that's maybe in my 30s, let's say, or 40s even.
Well, where you felt it in the body was in the head. Okay. That's where you felt worry and anxiety before you were 13, 40. You felt it in the head.
That's definitely, yeah, that I'm aware of very early on, as early as I remember.
Yeah. So what that tells us is that for some reason you wanted to leave the body. For some reason you wanted to leave the body. So, I don't know, did you, in your family home, was there any physical abuse or sexual assault or?
I don't know, because my memories don't go early enough in my childhood. So I have really no recollection. A friend of mine who was sexually abused said the way I respond sometimes, like if someone comes into my room unexpectedly or something and I jump. So her guess was maybe I was sexually abused. I have no recollection of it.
So what we would say is that actually there's an implicit memory of fear in the body. Okay? We don't know what it is, but there's an implicit. So if you can just acknowledge that there is an implicit memory in the body of fear, okay, which is old. And we don't even have to know what it's come from. But if there's an implicit memory of fear in the body, what do? We leave the body. And so one of the questions I asked you is what are you turning away from? And actually, one told me that actually what you're turning away from is what? When something happens and you get activated, what are you turning away from? feeling in the body. Because if you stopped worrying, you would be more in the body. And for some reason, it tells me that you left your body. So in a way, the work, if you're working with the therapist, your work is to get you in the body. Because there's a function. The worrying is a protector. That's all the worrying is doing. It's protecting you. Okay? It has a job. That's what worrying is. It has a job. It's protecting you. It's protecting you from being in the body. And there's an implicit memory somewhere in the body. And we don't have to know what the cause is, but there's some memory in the body that you had to tense up and perhaps not feel. You didn't want to have to feel. Well, final words from you. You've gone quiet. You've stopped talking.
Oh, I'm just trying to remember your main message to me, which is to speak with my therapist about how I come back to my body.
Yeah. To get her to get you into your body. And just know that this worry is a friend for you, okay? It's a friend. It's lived with you for many years. It's a friend. It's a comforter. And sometimes there's excitement in worry as well. It takes us into another world. Yeah. Okay. And it's protected you. And there's now that time of actually realizing you want to retire it. You could actually really think about retiring this part of you that worries. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And it's thank you for the conversation, because it's great for all of us. Yeah. So let's clinging. There was let me just actually see what the question is. Yeah. The cessation of clinging. It's when I saw and it was so interesting, the cessation of clinging and the fear of death, how they both came up at the same time. And I think for all of us to become aware of things that we have let go of in life, because I really do believe, my view is that we are all renunciates. Okay. We tend to think of the monks and the nuns who, go into a monastery and they're the renunciates. And we're not. It's separate. As lay people, we're not. It's separate. And yet, any life can be a trap. You can be a monk and you can still be deluded. You can be a lay person and you can still be deluded. But at the end of the day, we all have to renounce. Yeah? And we can either begin renouncing now, or we may have to face renouncing everything at the point of death. And remembering there's absolutely, and the reason why I say we're all renunciates, because there's, what can we take with us when we die? What can we take with us? I mean, if there's somebody who can tell me what we can take with us, let me know. Because there's absolutely nothing. So even if you have this life and you have all this money and, big house, the big car, personality, there's absolutely nothing we can take with us. Can't take your children, can't take your partner. It's absolutely nothing. And so, for me, when I think about the cessation of clinging, I make it a practice to begin to let go of things in life now. And so if there's any of you who are in recovery, you have actually renounced certain things, you know. And we know how painful it is. And if you've had somebody die in your life, I mean, every single person here has had somebody die in their life, okay? All right? So, you know, do we still cling to that person who's died, or are we able to let go? And in a way, I'm doing this like I'm drinking hot water. The mind is like this. The mind grabs that stuff. So the mind is grabbing after the mug or the jar. It's grabbing, it's caught it. And, you know, I'm enjoying the heat and it's clinging. And to stop clinging, mind has to be open. Okay. So why do we cling is the question. What do we get from clinging? It's painful. It's painful to let go. I mean, if you, it's Stephen Levine's book. It's one of my Bibles. It's an old book, the late Stephen Levine, who wrote Who Dies? And he says that the end of a relationship is a mini rehearsal for death. The end of a meal is a mini rehearsal for death. You know, if you think you go out, you have a really nice meal and that last bite. And for some people, there's a real disappointment in the last bite. In fact, so much disappointment, we want more. Okay. Or if we think we go out, we've had a lovely time with our friends, or we've been at work, it comes to an end, and we come home and we're unable to just be with the emptiness of just letting go. Yeah. And I just want to let you know that every moment is a moment for rebirth and death. So, you know, each breath, there's the end of the breath and the rebirth of the new breath. And each moment, what's so beautiful in this teaching of, well, it's, you know, if we look at the practice of the Satipatthana, and, you know, if we think that the last one, or the Anapanasati, is the objects of mind, and in that last stage, it is about renouncing, it is about relinquishing, it is about cessation, it is about fading away. Yeah. How we begin to relinquish, how we begin to let something fade away. Yeah. How we can just completely let go. And it's a practice. It is practice. And the practice is, if we can begin to practice nothing to be afraid of, because when that moment of death arises, and we have we have no idea, and that can be the fear, I think, to actually look at that, because I think that many people can, okay, death, but it's, when will it happen? Because we want to have some control over it. When will it happen? I'm sure each of you have got some idea of what's your ideal way of dying, if you could choose how you die. Okay. And I know more and more we are having, you know, more and more legally, it's becoming more and more legally that we can choose how we die. In Canada, we have made medical assistance in dying. And we also have to accept that some people choose to take their lives. And I don't call it suicide, because that was, kind of people making it illegal to take your life. Yeah. So, the fear of death. I think if one has the fear of death, then one has the fear of life, because life and death, it's all bound up. It's not separate. How can it be separate? And I think, for me, one of the ways that I have worked with my own demise, and it's looking at nature, just going out and just seeing, the roses in my garden coming into bloom and they die. Yeah. Sometimes I have flowers and I watch them. I don't throw away as soon as they're withered, because I think this is like humans. Some stay strong. Some keel over very quickly. And yet some do wither, but they're still strong. And that's like us as humans. Yeah. And just kind of bringing this full circle, that actually, I think rather than, the dying is the easy part. I think more people have the fear of getting dementia or Alzheimer's, not being able to take care of oneself. Yeah. So we bypass that. Sometimes we cling on to the fear of death because we're bypassing the fact of aging. Yeah. That's what that holding on to that story, or that identification of dying, the fear of dying, is, so that we don't have to come into relationship with our aging. And we're all going to age, aren't we? I mean, this is the Four Noble Truths. I mean, this is, we're going to age, we're going to get sick, and we're going to die. And we're in protest with our aging. I mean, we get to a certain age and our memory isn't as great as what it used to be. Unless, of course, you've got the money to buy a chip. I know, there's going to be some chip at the moment. You're going to be able to download everything. At the moment, we just download it on a flat screen. It's great. What was that? We can't remember it. Let's ask Professor Google. So So in answer to that question, I think the existential question of the fear of dying is, how can we just step into life and then just enjoy this moment, and just be in this moment and just enjoy this moment, no matter what body that we live in. There are, I've seen it, people, actually a friend of mine, one of the people talking on the 8-step recovery video, Colin is getting very close to his death and just really watching that process. And he's found such beauty in living, such beauty in living in these moments. So that's what I would say, is just step into being in this moment of living. Okay, so we are coming very close to the end of our day. So I don't know if there's any questions. Be great to sit with some of you. So I just put that again. If some of you would like to join Kevin and I on the 7th, it's an online retreat run by Spirit Rock. It'd be great to sit with some of you. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Jeff? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for a riveting talk. Are there any 8-step meetings in this area, in the Bay Area?
Yes, there is actually. I don't know whether when they're going to be in person, but the East Bay Meditation Center at the moment on Saturdays at 10 o'clock.
Okay, with Walt Opie. Yeah. Okay.
So there's that one, and there's one at 1 o'clock online in Vancouver, which is Sunday today, and I could find the link and put that link in the.
That would be great.
That link that starts. Get that link.
Thank you, because there's another group that does a version of the 8 steps that are very different, and the community has a very different feeling.
Oh, which group is that?
Through the refuge recovery.
Oh yeah, refuge. Yeah. Oh yeah. So refuge recovery focus more explicitly on the Noble Eightfold Path. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So do we move into the transference of merit, Cass, or?
Yes, we just will invite people who have announcements. Okay. And we have, as you said, there's the day-long retreat that you're having with Kevin Griffin on Saturday, August 7th. We invite Donna to help us meet the expenses of our Sangha. We use Donna for our once-a-month program feeding people at the Larkin Street Center. We use it to pay for the newsletter, which is mailed primarily to people who are incarcerated. When we meet in the center, and even now to pay for rent for the center that we use, and to pay for Donna to our speakers. So I invite you to visit our website and find the link to the donations. Next week, our speaker will be Jennifer Barazon, the singer-songwriter who's been with us before many times. And does anybody else have any announcements? Okay, the group meets again on Wednesdays at 7:30. The same link through Zoom will get you to that meeting.
Jim raised his hand, Cass.
Please.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't on audio. I just wanted to share Philip Rossetti, who was part of the GBF for a while, was a facilitator, and he is. I took him to Coming Home Hospice on Wednesday, and just in terms of talking about detachment, he's an architect, has a gorgeous sense of form, and his apartment was just alive with visual stimulation. And when we were pulling out of his driveway, he said, "Bye, house. It's been lovely." And that was it. He has let go of his physical world. And now his room is next to the nurses' stations. And he says, "Oh, I hear them chatter. It's lovely." So it's just been wonderful to see this.
Wow.
Mature acceptance develop over the past 3 months. So hold a thought for him. He's a great man.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I just want to say it's great to meet with you, because I have been in at the center, San Francisco Center, when you've been meeting. I've been up with the community. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
So thank you for a wonderful engagement with our community. Thank you so much. Okay, let's have our dedication of merit. Would you like to do the dedication of merit, Vimalasara?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
The transference of merit and self-surrender. May the merit gain in my acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. My personality throughout my existences, my possessions, and my merit in all three ways I give up without regard for myself for the benefit of all beings. Just as the earth and other elements are serviceable in many ways to the infinite number of beings inhabiting limitless space, so may I become that which maintains all beings situated throughout space, so long as all have not attained to peace. So again, remembering that we have to let go of our personality and our possessions. Yeah, it's not just the body. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vimalasara. That was a really strong engagement with the Sangha. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I shall see you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.